Is it not recording?
It didn't record that whole thing
Okay. You
because
want me to
I
summarize
didn't have.
it? You want me to summarize it?
Oh,
I was kind of long-winded anyway. So here's my summary.
all right.
I got into
Summary.
real estate because I wanted to be an entrepreneur, create a better life and better future for myself. Over the last 2 years, I've become a productive agent and been a sponge for learning everything that I can from the people that I'm around and the company that I'm with. And I also started asking a set of bigger questions like, in the run, what do I have left in my career? How do I really create legacy? How do I create wealth at a high level and something that is going to make an impact for my family? I realized that the only way I can do that where I'm at really is selling more real estate or build a real estate sales team, neither of which sounds great in the quality of life department. So as I started asking that different set of questions, I attracted people into my life that were already in that conversation and doing that, and showed me a very clear path how to create that for myself. So I am making a change from where I've been at in my career to surrounding myself with people that are already on that path ahead of me in that journey to teach me exactly how to do it by doing it together with me.
Thank you. It's beautifully said. Oh,
Okay. So where this is going to become really important is, let me pull this. Why are all of these other things? Not Keynote. Here we go. Safari. Share. So back here under the resources tab and the training schedule, here is the builder's best practices call that we did today. And you can catch all the recordings there. That recording will be up later. However, more importantly, here's the access the full calendar. And so when you click on access full calendar, you can go in and see it on a Google calendar and then just plug those things into your calendar so that if that's where your commitment is and learning, growing, like how to do this, that's where you'll be on
okay.
the first and third Tuesday of the month at 9 a.m. So that's that piece. The second piece is, okay, we've got your story packaged up, and I realized that was a really, like, if you want to look at the breakdown of what I just did and how I just did it, I've done it a million times. So I'm listening in context always when I'm getting to know people. And then as I'm listening in context for what they're saying about themselves and their, their lives and their businesses and their futures, if you want to look at like an actual process of how to create a story, how to build a story, under the Builders Bootcamp on Empire Builders Pro, so that you can do this with other people that come into your organization. There's the anatomy of the story, a training on that, and then this whole system around building and growing and scaling. Right now, what we're going to focus on is the transition conversation. You can go back to
Okay.
those sources. So what we're going to focus on is this transition conversation that can happen in the 48 hours up to you moving your license. And what is important about that is you getting really clear on a couple of things. Number
Okay.
one, as it relates to your story, it's not a lot of times when people think about stories, they're telling a story of the past. The most important part of the story is the story of the future and
Future.
literally where you're going, because it's your vision. And when you're clearly communicating your vision, it gives people who want the same things a place to see themselves within your vision, and then you're using your influence for them to follow you. So over the next 24 to 48 hours, in doing that specifically, there is this key window of time that once your license is moved and it's public that you're with EXP, that opportunity is gone forever. And so this is a very critical window of time, depending on how you should use it. And so I'm going to bring up some visuals for that. And it's really this idea of this transition conversation. And the idea behind the transition conversation is that I wanted you to hear it from me and not someone else. So part of what you're going to do on the other side of this conversation is I want you to think about the top 20 to 30 relationships that you have. That could be with other agents that you've done deals with. It could be with people that are in your office. It could be with people that you've met at events or that you've been in masterminds with, like anyone that you have a really great relationship with. However, it could be somebody that you don't really know that well, that you have a lot of respect and admiration for. And so if you get like very crystal clear in your mind, 20 to 30 of those people, the context of this conversation is that you're reaching out and you are wanting them to hear this from you, not from someone else. And this is
Okay.
your opportunity for them to hear it from you. And most importantly, the why behind it, which is an opening, essentially an invitation for them to come into the conversation in a very relaxed way. So as we go into what that conversation looks like, there's some components of just the framework of the conversation, which you'll see in sticky notes at the top. So let's say that you're reaching out to Richard. It's a conversation, right? So if you call him on the phone
Okay.
and you get them on the phone, it's, hey, Richard, it's Rachel. Did you have a minute to catch you in the middle of something? Right. And
Okay.
so that's the clearing the time piece. The context for the call is, I have something important that I wanted to share with you. I wanted you to hear it from me, not from someone else.
Okay.
And so you're immediately like, now you've got Richard's attention. Then the compliment piece is really important. Richard, the reason why I'm reaching out to you is because I respect, admire, like the fact that you ... Right. So before you ever reach out to Richard, the most important thing that you have in your mind is what that compliment's going to be, that it's short, it's true, it's to the point, and it's something that's an investment in the relationship with him. The other thing that happens is compliments and words of affirmation being a love language for people, where a lot of people are underappreciated or undervalued. If the only thing Richard remembers from your conversation is the compliment that you gave him that was true for you based on your experience of him, the investment in that relationship has just gone through the roof, even if he never hears another word that you said. And so the second thing that happens in that is when someone is receiving a compliment, in addition to receiving and now capturing their attention, any walls or barriers that they may have had up for whatever reason, just could be what's going on in their day, soften and come down. So you have a place where they're in a position to hear you, where they might not otherwise be if you hadn't told them that there was an actual purpose for your call and made an investment in the relationship with the compliment. Does that part make sense so far?
Yeah.
Okay. So these are just examples of things that you could say. However, the idea is that your top 20 to 30 people are hearing about the fact that you're making a change, and they're not seeing it on social media, and they're not hearing about it from someone else in the office. And so that's why we save it for the 48 hours leading up to the actual license move, because I mean, my goodness, you're taking time out of your schedule to, out of consideration and respect, reach out to them, right? And the reach out is, yes, I want you to hear it from me and not someone else, but it's also an invitation. So when you share your story, which I shared earlier in a very consolidated form, now you're opening up that question of, hey, listen, I don't know if you're looking at, how to work smarter, or how to take your business to the next level, or how to create, legacy wealth for your family, or, consolidate the runway of your career and create something much larger than you're on track to create now. Like, these are, depending on your relationship with them and what you know of them, different examples of things that you could say. I don't know if you are. However, are you open to a conversation, to learning some of the things that I've learned to put these pieces together for myself, for the difference that it could make for your career and for your family? And it's not, are you interested? Because interested means they need information to make a decision. It's open to a conversation. And if they are open to a conversation, get a conversation set up with them and Richard. And it's 30 minutes really. And the power of that conversation is going to be that as you started asking these questions, he was the person that came along that had started asking those questions for himself before you did, and is already on the path and the track to create it. And so he's one of the people that's walking this journey with you, right? And so now you guys are more of a collaborative conversation, where it's a really kind of like a soft opening, right? And it can start with Richard, and of course can move into other people. Like, it could be a conversation with me after that, or whoever might be appropriate for where they're at, in the same way that you've gone through that process for yourself with different people with Richard, right? So we're in this system of using our stories to influence, to open doors, to create larger conversations. And then as those doors open and people are open to walking through those doors and being in that conversation with you, we're walking them through this process very strategically, which is just a layering process of helping them think bigger, helping them think differently, asking a different set of questions, and getting an experience of our community and all of the people that are there for them to learn from and to grow with.
Wow. That's quite the information.
It's a lot of information, right?
Yeah, but I
So,
mean, it all makes sense. It's like just you have to build the relationship to get them to want to do what you're doing in a sense, in a way that works for them, because not my path isn't their path, but there are people that can show you that path, and I have access to them.
yeah,
So that's
absolutely. And we're
yeah.
on that together. Like, we're in this conversation together. So this is the context of the conversation is not, I want to recruit you to a different brokerage. And you can feel that by what the conversation is. The conversation is that you're investing in the relationship, and you're investing in the relationship with them. You're having the courage to move forward and make change that's aligned with what you want, knowing that nobody really likes change except for a very small percentage of people, because they get a rush out of disruption. And so you're willing to walk through a door of change to be more aligned with where you actually want to go. And that takes courage, right? And
Yes.
that's going to be true for any person that you speak with as well. And so these conversations, which are just door opening conversations, here's some language here that could be another way to say it or to have the conversation. And that is, how am I going to meet my financial needs when that day comes that I don't want to sell anymore? And I'm not interested in managing the person that's managing 16 rentals or what's going on with those, right? I wanted to be in a different conversation about exit strategy and leverage. And one of the things that I love to say is I believe there's a huge impact that we can make together if you're open to that. Are you open?
Wow.
Okay. Comments, questions?
I'm just taking this all in. I mean, it's definitely nice to have this insight, because I haven't had that before. I haven't anybody I spoke to. It's like, yeah, they have, everybody has their own intentions of what they want to do in life and what they're looking to do. But when you have someone break it down, like, hey, this is your story, like, and I've told you what I'm doing, and you can break that down to me and let me know how I can better serve people out there if they want to follow this path too. I'm not saying everybody has to follow me, but if there is somebody who likes my path or wants to come this way, I can show them the path. Like my children, like she's like, I don't need to learn compound interest at school, mom. You can teach me that. And it's like, yeah, you're right. I can. So it's just,
You
I
teach
want
me
to be
that
able
by
to,
watching it grow in my bank account.
right, right. So that's what I'm saying. It's just like, yeah, this is kind of a affirmation of what I've been looking for the last, I don't know, year, year, 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's
So
that principle, right? As you seek, so you shall find. There's an interesting conversation, and more people are getting in this conversation. There's in the building where we live, there is a unit that's for sale on the second floor. And so it is, the brokerage that's representing it is Real, which is like a knockoff of EXP with, it's apples to oranges. However, they market themselves as like the next EXP, and they're not anywhere near the next EXP, just because of how they're set up. However, the two gals that were there are like with Real because they want to build leverage. And so they're holding this open house, and so I went in and looked at it, and then Rick went in afterwards, and we had separate conversations with them. And so I was like, the warm up conversation. And of course, we were checking it out of what they'd done, because we're in a building that's newer, and the people did some remodeling and renovation on the new building before they're selling it now. And so they were looking to us for information about the building, or what would be important for them to know, and reselling it. And then also, this conversation started up about leverage and what they were building and why they were there and da da da. And so then when Rick goes back down, and the reason why I'm sharing this is just more and more people are in this conversation of how do I get more out of what I'm doing, selling real estate and create leverage, right? And so one of the gals who is a much higher, like higher D personality said to Rick, oh, well, our plan is so much easier than your plan, and better. And he's like, well, that's really interesting because I know both plans really well and you guys lack a 6th and 7th level. And if you understood what that meant as it relates to compounding interest and as it grows and builds over time, over 50% of the income that you're going to get in revenue share is going to come from that 6th and 7th level, which you don't have and we do.
And
they're
broke
like,
that one down.
like
Oh.
silence, right? So
Of course.
people, the reason why I'm sharing that conversation is more and more people are going to be in this conversation of how do I create leverage? What do I do when I stop selling? How do I get more than just my real estate commission? And someone has come along and educated them on that piece of it. However, without understanding the distinctions of what makes this model superior in delivering leverage and legacy wealth to anything else there out there that exists, like that's where it becomes really important. That's where we become ambassadors for people in helping to educate them, because just because they're in a knockoff or Me Too model because they want those things and have been fed that they're going to get them in a, you know, easier way or better way than they could get them at EXP. They just don't know what they don't know, right? And so it's great because it shows that someone has an interest in creating that, and now we come in and can layer on actually educating them if they really want to grow and build something, what the impact of that looks like long term. And if you're going to spend the time and energy, wouldn't you want the most return possible if that's what you're going to be doing anyway? So why would you do it in a model that's going to cut you in half 50% in the long run, right? And so these are like important things to keep in mind, which is a further down the road conversation. However, it ties into, you know, what you're doing in this transition, which is you're planting seeds with people about helping them think differently or ask a different set of questions and therefore get a different set of answers and possibilities.
Yeah.
Exciting.
It is exciting.
So when someone says to you, I've heard about EXP, I know all about it, your mindset, it's going to really serve you to say, and you haven't heard about it from me. So assume if they haven't heard about it from you and Richard, they don't know. Because a lot of people think that they know things and they don't know. The girls that are with Real, representing the seller on the 2nd floor in our building, think that they know about EXP. They don't know, right? If they did know, they would be here if they really understood it. And they're not. So we know there's a gap, right? And so anytime you come across someone that is in that conversation, if they're not with us, it means they don't understand it. And so that's your opportunity for your story and your influence, if they're open to a conversation, to have them start thinking differently and putting pieces together where they do understand. And just like you, same process you've gone through, and remember this as you go through it, right? You've been in a year of asking these questions and having the answers come to you and putting the pieces together. And so everyone's going to have their own timeline with that process. And so you being the person that's going to be the person that's in the relationship with them and in that conversation with them over time is the opportunity that you have to use your influence in your story as you walk that path with them and essentially pay it forward in a way that Richard's paying it forward to you.
Wow. Yeah. I'm like speechless right now. So much.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's
right.
It's all great information. And it's like, this is what I'm looking for. So
yeah, so
happy.
Be patient with yourself, have fun with it. It's going to be like, if you are committed to doing it at a high level and be mastering your craft, just like you have been in real estate, it's inevitable as to what you'll create. And just know that as you're looking at that, it's the 5 to 7 year game, like, right? Stay focused over the next 5 to 7 years. You're building something, you're growing something that involves people and their timing, on a great platform that can help them in huge ways. So all right, we are at the bottom of the hour. So before we say goodbye, any leftovers, questions, things that come up since we've been talking?
Now, with the people, like you're saying, make the list of 20 to 30 people. So am I reaching out to them by phone, text, email, any way possible, or
no email, right?
No email.
In the importance of this is controlling the conversation. So if you're in a text conversation, you're not controlling the conversation because you're awaiting a response. If you're in an email conversation, you're not controlling the conversation because you've thrown it out into the ether, hoping something comes back. The only way that you control what's going to happen in that conversation, and by I mean control, I don't mean controlling, I mean connection and influence, is if you're in a dialogue that's a conversation. So if you call someone and get their voicemail, it's, hey, call me as soon as you get this. If they pick up the phone, it's the conversation that we went through. If for some reason you normally have a texting conversation with them and you reach out to them and say, you know, got a sec, like, for a call, and that's how you would initiate conversation. Like, you want to keep the connection of the conversation, it being an actual conversation, so that people can hear your excitement, can hear your enthusiasm. And if someone's open, you're not going into the conversation at that time. You're finding a 30-minute window later that day or the next day where you and Richard and they can connect together. And you're not talking to them about Richard at that point. You're just saying, you know, when can we grab 30 minutes later today or tomorrow?
Okay.
Yep. And then as you jump into that conversation, it's like, you know, you're excited to have that conversation, and who is joining the reason that Richard's in the conversation is because he's the person that's been helping you put those pieces together and in a larger conversation. And so the purpose of him being in the conversation with you and with them is for them to be able to meet and be part of a larger conversation and understand how that's come together. And then also to continue the conversation that you started to have with them that they're open to having. So everything is in this context of collaboration and working together with others.
Awesome.
Okay.
Let's go. All right. I have to thank you guys so much. I have to hop off to my next meeting, but
Okay.
I'm so excited. Thank you so much for your time, Casey. You are amazing. And you grow to the level of questions that you ask. So I love everything you said today.
Thank you so much.
too.
And will you shoot me a recording of this Zoom once it becomes available?
Rachel, I think that would be you because you're the one who got it.
Okay. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.